Good afternoon. Earlier today, I informed Dennis White of his termination as Commissioner of the Boston Police Department, effective immediately. I reached this decision after carefully considering the results of an independent investigation into multiple allegations of domestic violence against Dennis White, along with testimony and information he provided during the hearing on June 1st. Dennis White has repeatedly asserted that the domestic violence allegations against him are false, but he stated in his hearing and during the investigation that he has hit and pushed members of his household. The allegations and evidence of this behavior raised serious questions about his fitness to lead the Boston Police Department, and Dennis White's actions in recent weeks have done even more to erode public trust in his judgment and ability to lead. Instead of expressing understanding, regret, growth, or contrition regarding his admitted actions about domestic violence, Dennis White instead has continued a campaign to vilify his former wife. Furthermore, Dennis White describes his circumstances as part of a pattern of falsely accused black men. The desperate treatment of black people in our country is a genuine concern. But let's be clear, racism is a burden carried by both men and women of color, and I will not turn a blind eye to domestic violence against black women, or any woman for that matter, in the Boston Police Department or anywhere else. Dennis White failed to fully cooperate during this investigation and was a reoccurring presence at police headquarters while on administrative leave. At best, this behavior created confusion among officers, and at worst, it fostered a climate of intimidation during the investigation and beyond. As commissioner, he failed to lead by example and did not seem to understand the importance of cooperating with an investigation. It is clear that Dennis White's return as commissioner would send a chilling message to victims of domestic violence in our city and reinforce a culture of fear and a blue wall of silence in our police department. Dennis White's documented conduct 20 years ago and during the course of the investigation led me to the inescapable conclusion that it is not in the best interest of the Boston Police Department, its employees, or the citizens of Boston for him to remain as commissioner. I have therefore terminated Dennis White as Boston Police Commissioner effective immediately. As mayor, I am committed to leading positive change and systemic reforms to bring overdue transparency and accountability to policing in Boston. The time has come for us to turn away from the mistakes of the past and move toward a more just and equitable Boston. I am implementing several measures to reimagine the future of policing in our city and set the stage for a national search for a permanent commissioner to be named toward the end of the year. Starting with the full implementation of the Boston Police Reform Task Force recommendations, under my leadership, the city has already begun to implement these recommendations. We have established the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency and have installed a brilliant leader, Attorney Stephanie Everett. OPAT currently has active investigations underway. We have also created a mental health response pilot with my Office of Health and Human Services and the Boston Police Department. We will continue to implement the work of the Police Reform Task Force. I want to make this a collaborative process between the city, Boston residents, and the police department. In the coming weeks, I will name a committee of community residents, public safety advocates, and law enforcement professionals who will lead a community engagement process to define what Boston residents seek from leadership within our police force. To advance this effort, I am addressing policies that govern the Boston Police Department, starting with background checks. Going forward, all candidates for BPD leadership, whether internal or external, will be subject to vetting and background checks. The residents of Boston must have confidence that the officers charged with enforcing laws are themselves or people of integrity. We will also work to strengthen BPD domestic violence policy. The current policy is more than 15 years old. It is time to update these rules to reflect what social science research has shown about domestic violence, particularly the challenges faced by women of color and those abused by police officers. For the first time, we will propose a sexual assault policy to govern our police force. We must have practices and procedures that protect victims from police intimidation and take into account the unique sensitivity of sexual violence. The Boston Police Department will require steady leadership as we move forward. And I am grateful for Chief Greg Long, who has graciously performed double duty as both Chief of Police and Acting Commissioner. I want to thank him and his family for their continued service to our city. All of these changes taken together with ongoing reforms such as mental health response pilot and the new Office of Police Accountability and Transparency began a new chapter for the Boston Police Department and for our city. While more challenges certainly lie ahead, we are moving Boston forward toward a more just and more equitable future. In other news, I have declared a heat emergency that continues through tomorrow. We won't get much relief from the heat and humidity tonight, and tomorrow is going to be another hot day. I'm urging all residents to find ways to stay hydrated, ways to stay cool, whether air conditioning, taking cool showers, and staying in the shade. And please continue to hydrate. Our BCYF cooling centers will be open again tomorrow. All are welcome to stop by and cool off from the summer heat. You can find a list of the cooling centers at boston.gov/heat. I also want to mention that Boston EMS has seen a 31 increase in a call volume on Saturday and Sunday. As 11 o'clock this morning, there have already been 18 heat-related calls since Saturday. We are asking all residents to avoid outdoor activities during the middle of the day. If you need to work outside or in the middle of the day, please take breaks often, find shade, and drink lots and lots of water. Knowing the signs of heat exhaustion as well as heat-related illness, please watch out for them. If you experience any heavy sweating, or cool or clammy skin, or dizziness, or nausea, or muscle aches, stop what you're doing, drink some water, and try to cool off with shade and a cool shower. If your symptoms do not improve, please call for help. If you're going to try to beat the heat at the beach or pool or lake, make sure you take steps to stay safe in the water. Always supervise children near the water. Make sure they're wearing a life jacket. Never leave a child or a pet in the car unattended, and please wear your sunscreen. Also, please check on our elderly neighbors. At this time, I will take a few questions.
Will you remove Dennis White from BPD altogether, or will he return to his civil service rank within the department, which I believe is lieutenant?
So when he took on the position being the commissioner, he gave up his civil service rank. And so he is removed from the force altogether.
Madam Mayor, why did you change your mind from appointing a different acting police commissioner, or Nora Bastian, should I say, to go into a national search?
Can you repeat that?
What happened to the Nora Bastian plans, I guess is my question.
I never announced plans for Nora Bastian.
And multiple sources have told multiple reporters that Nora Bastian was on tap.
So in the coming weeks, as I announce plans for a search committee, I will have more to say on the interim position and what we do moving forward. As of right now, Chief Greg Long is in the position. He has been doing an amazing job, and we'll go from there. But at the next update, we'll have more information about not just an interim, but more important, the permanent commissioner and the process that will get us there.
So do you anticipate Chief Greg Long remaining interim commissioner until the national search is concluded, or do you plan on another interim?
So right now, this is the news of the day, and I will come back with more information in the coming weeks as we have this committee named and more thinking around a permanent commissioner search. And right now we have in Chief Long an amazing leader who has been doing incredible work, double duty as acting commissioner and superintendent in chief. And certainly I want to thank him and his family for his service to Boston.
Jessica, what is your message to Boston Police and to the community at large with today's announcement?
Today's message is that it's a new day. It is a new day. We have a new vision for policing in Boston. We have to reimagine policing. We have to make sure that there is accountability and transparency. Obviously, there are policies that need to be put in place, whether we're talking about vetting, whether we're talking about, a sexual assault policy that currently doesn't exist, whether we're talking about the domestic violence policy that is 15 years old, and so many other issues. There are investigations underway through the OPAT office. We certainly have to move forward in implementing the recommendations that came from the OPAT task force. And I look forward to doing that in collaboration with our police officers, the Boston Police Department, with community, with residents, and community stakeholders throughout the city of Boston. I would end on this note that we have amazing officers doing incredible work every single day on behalf of the residents of Boston, and they need to be free to do that work without this cloud hanging over them. So it is a new day in Boston, a new day that leads us toward a more equitable and more just city. Thank you.